This terrifying story is a true experience from a group of 4 high school students. Palm, Koi, Jay, and Bao, who encountered a horror beyond imagination and shared it with us. When we speak of Ubon Ratchathani province, many think of the land of the first light, the place where the warm rays of the sun hit the ground before anywhere else in Thailand. It is a symbol of brightness and new beginnings. But every coin has 2 sides. When that light fades beyond the horizon, the darkness that takes over brings a chilling cold and secrets that dance in the shadows. This is especially true for the stories hidden within a certain prestigious old school in the province. This school has a long history, building its academic reputation generation after generation. Towering school buildings stand interspersed with large, ancient trees that provide shade during the day. But when night falls, that shade turns into desolation. Those large trees, once comforting, transform into looming shadows of monsters standing guard. And the place rumored to be the most haunted, the place seniors whisper to juniors with trembling voices, saying, "If you don't have to, don't go near it at night," is Building 5, or as the students call it, the new building. Building 5 is a 4-story structure with a modern design, looking strong and secure. But behind that normal facade lies a legend passed down by word of mouth. One of the creepiest tales is about room 531, a classroom located deep in the inner wing of the building. It is said that this room has a haunted fluorescent light. No matter how many times the janitor turns off the switch, unplugs the wires, or even changes the bulb, late at night, this single light will flash on by itself. It shines a stark white light through the darkness, as if an invisible owner is still sitting there, working or waiting for something forever. But the story we are sharing tonight isn't just about a mysterious light. It is a terrifying, first-hand experience of a group of high school students who had to face horror on a Friday night, a time when the school should have been at its quietest. Let's go back to a time near Mother's Day. Palm, the responsible group leader, had arranged for 3 friends to meet. Koi, a girl who is easily scared. Jay, a skeptical guy who never believed in ghosts. And Bo, an artistic girl who lived in her own world. They gathered after school to finish a Mother's Day exhibition board. Because the work required detailed cutting, drawing, and decorating, by the time the project started to take shape, the sun had already set. The last light of the sun faded from the sky, leaving only a gloomy, reddish-purple hue. The atmosphere inside the school went silent. The noise of thousands of students from the daytime was gone, and replaced by the sound of wind whistling through vents and dry leaves scraping against the concrete. Most students had gone home, leaving only the flickering light from a classroom on the 3rd floor of Building 5, shining alone in the darkness of the entire building. On the 3rd floor, Palm's group was hard at work. The room was littered with paper scraps, scissors, and the faint smell of latex glue. Jay started complaining about being hungry and tired, trying to rush his friends. Koi began to act nervous. She kept craning her neck to look out the window. The pitch-black darkness outside, like spilled ink, made her feel unsafe. The later it got, the stranger the school looked. The long hallway in front of the classroom, which they walked every day, now seemed to stretch on endlessly, filled with shadowy shapes in the corners. Even though Jay tried to crack jokes to break the silence and insisted that ghosts were nonsense, deep down, everyone felt a rising pressure. The atmosphere in the room began to feel heavy, as if the air had become too dense to breathe. Even though the windows were open, the sound of scissors cutting paper and paintbrushes dipping into water became unusually loud in the dead silence. And then, the first warning sign rang out. While everyone was looking down at their work, a sound, clack, clack, came from the back corner of the room, where old desks were stacked. It sounded like someone shifting a table or chair gently. Everyone stopped their hands. Koi turned pale and asked her friends if they heard it. Jay, the big talker, laughed it off, saying it was just the wind or a rat bumping into things. Palm, as the leader, volunteered to check it out to calm everyone down. But when he got to that corner, everything was still. No sign of movement. No cat. No rat. Only a thick layer of dust, confirming that no one had touched this area for a long time. Palm went back to his seat, trying to tell everyone it was nothing, but in his heart, he was shaken. He was sure the sound was too clear to be the wind. Silence covered the room again. But this time, it was a silence that wasn't empty. Everyone worked with paranoia. Their ears pricked for strange noises, their eyes darting between the front and back doors. Time passed until nearly 7 p.m. Darkness outside swallowed everything. The school building opposite, usually visible in the dim light, was now just a massive black wall. Suddenly, a mysterious sound erupted again. But this time, it wasn't just a gentle click. Scrape, scrape. It was the sound of a chair being dragged, the sound of wooden legs grinding against concrete, a sound every student knows well. But what made the blood in their veins turn to ice was that the sound wasn't coming from inside the room. It was coming from the hallway outside. A sound came from the far end of the building's corridor. Scrape, scrape. The rhythm was slow, deliberate, as if someone was dragging a chair while patrolling the building in the dark. The sound was moving closer and closer, passing the teacher's lounge, passing the first classroom, the second classroom, heading straight for the room where they were sitting. The 4 students sat frozen. Their hearts pounded in their chests like they were about to explode. No one dared to make a sound. Tears welled up in Koi's eyes. Her hands shook so hard she dropped her scissors. Jay, the skeptic, was now sitting pale-faced, sweating profusely. They prayed in their minds that it was just the janitor or a teacher on duty. But if it was a person, why drag a chair? And why was there no beam of a flashlight? The dragging sound stopped right in front of their door. Silence took over for a heartbeat, a silence more terrifying than any noise. Every pair of eyes was locked on the doorknob and the old wooden door with the ventilation slats at the bottom. Suddenly, the slightly ajar door began to vibrate gently, as if an invisible hand was gripping it. Creak. The rusty hinges screamed out in the quiet. The door slowly pushed open. It moved agonizingly slow, as if intended to torment the nerves of those inside. The group backed away into the corner, holding their breath, waiting to see who would poke their head in. But what appeared was emptiness. No one was at the door, just the darkness of the long hallway stretching out. A cold gust of wind blew into the room, carrying the smell of dampness and old earth. A smell not like rain or nature, but an ancient, musty scent that made them dizzy. A second later, the ultimate horror erupted. The bright fluorescent lights in the classroom began to flicker rapidly. Flash. Flash. The strobe effect created after images, before every single light died at once. Total blackout. Only the faint, dim glow from distant streetlights filtered through the window. In the darkness, where they couldn't even see their own hands, Koi screamed in terror. Bao collapsed to the floor, shaking. Jay stood frozen like a statue. This darkness didn't just bring blindness, it brought something with it. Everyone felt the exact same thing, a cold breath hitting the back of their necks. They felt the presence of someone standing right behind them, so close it felt like they were being possessed. And then a whisper echoed right next to their ears. It was a mumbling sound, unintelligible, not a language they knew. The voice was raspy, cold, and filled with a mix of rage and sorrow. The sound didn't come from one spot. It swirled around the 4 of them, left then right, as if a spirit was walking circles around them in the dark. Palm gathered the last scrap of sanity he had and screamed, "Run! Run now!" At that command, survival instincts kicked in. The 4 students bolted through the darkness toward the door, abandoning everything. They bumped into each other, slammed into desk edges, but the pain was nothing compared to the fear chasing them. Their footsteps thundered down the hallway, but it sounded like other footsteps were joining in. Heavy footsteps, running right behind them, mixed with the sound of that chair dragging. Scrape, scrape, faster and louder, as if the thing in the dark was furious that its prey was escaping. They flew down the stairs, taking 2 or 3 steps at a time, almost tumbling headfirst. No one dared to stop or look back. They knew if they turned around, they might see something they shouldn't see, an image that would haunt them forever. They didn't stop until their feet hit the ground outside, running clear of Building 5 and into the open area lit by streetlights. Only then did they slow down, gasping for air, exhausted and traumatized. Their faces were pale and drenched in sweat. With a mix of curiosity and terror, Palm slowly turned to look back at Building 5 one last time. The entire building was pitch black, silent, as if nothing had happened. But then, his eyes caught a single light on the 3rd floor. Room 531. That legendary fluorescent light. It was shining brightly, alone in the darkness of the building. That cold, white light stood still, like the eye of a giant staring down to see them off, reminding them that they are still there, always. That night became a nightmare that stayed with the 4 students forever. They never dared to go near that building after sunset again, and none of them dared to speak of the event in detail, fearing that speaking of it would call it back. The legend of Building 5 and Room 531 in the famous school of Ubon Ratchathani continues to be whispered from generation to generation. It serves as a warning to new students. In places full of knowledge, sometimes there are hidden things waiting to reveal themselves when the light fades away. If you enjoyed this true Thai horror story, subscribe to Tale After Dark for more chilling tales every week. To listen to more long, continuous horror stories, click the playlist on the screen now.